Hey, welcome back to the Build It Basement. A little bit late, sorry about that. Don't normally do streams in the middle of the day. But this is the kickoff to our disassembly of Johnny 5, the old Formbot kit. We're basically going to be taking this thing apart, go over what the parts that were in this. This is about a 2-year-old printer. It's got about 2,000 hours on it. I want to go over what's worn, what maintenance is going to be needed to be done to this if I was going to maintain it the way it is now. Also go over some things that have changed over the past couple revisions of, or the R2 versus this version of it. This has an afterburner on it, does not have tap. There's a bunch of things. This is kind of a little bit old school. So we're going to jump into getting this thing disassembled. I'm going to do all the disassembly of this printer in live stream, probably going to be 2 streams or so. The reassemble and rebuild of the whole printer using products from Big Tree Tech, Mandela Roseworks, a bunch of stuff from KV3D, of which I do plan on getting some of those people actually into the to the videos when we do them, the build video portions of these. Those items are all going to be replacing some of the items that are currently on this printer. Pretty much the only thing we're going to for sure keep is the frame. I think that's pretty much the only thing we're going to keep. Not saying there's anything wrong with this kit. This kit has done really well. I've had very minimal problems with it. I think I enjoyed this build actually better than the LDO kit build because there wasn't so many changes, and that's just because the manufacturers hadn't gotten to the point where they were manipulating things and making them a little bit easier for people to put together. But that being said, you know, all these builds are kind of fun. They're all a little bit different, right? So let's jump right into this. I got this thing flipped over. We're going to do the electronics first. We'll go over what's in this, and then we'll see where we wind up today. All right. So I got my StreamBot element thing here, and I got only 3 people watching, but that's cool. If you're watching this now and you're from wherever in the world, I appreciate it. And if you have questions about this particular printer or where we're going with this, by all means ask. As well as you've seen some of my other videos that showed up here today. If you have questions about my previous Ulti-Bib build, which I'm going to be renaming probably, since this is going to be the Super Voron, I'm going to rename that other one that I just finished up to probably the Minion, because let's face it, the tool head looks like a Minion. So this is a Lineo harness. It did not come with the kit. That was bought separately. We have a Meanwhile 24-volt power supply, Meanwhile 5-volt power supply. Is this Meanwhile? Yes. Gold company name. Solid state relay SSR. We have a Physix Spider controller MCU, and then I did upgrade this from the Raspberry 3 to the 4B that's in here right now. The motors that came with this are no brand, I don't believe. Yeah, I don't believe they have a branding on them. They're not Moon, they're not LDO, they're nothing special. They're just basically what they're able to get, and they've held up pretty good. The belts are, I believe, Gates belts. Let me see here. Look, yeah, they're Gates belts. I can tell by the part number there, and right there, the logo. So yeah, so let's just work our way through this here as we take it apart. We have to get a little screwdriver. I need that. Let's see. First things first, we got no power connected, so we know that. On this build, back when this was done, they weren't using any terminal blocks or Wagos or anything like that. I'm sure somebody probably was, but it was a mod that wasn't popular. I mean, these are pretty much plain Jane, quick builds, not quick builds, but minimal part build type things. So note to anybody that's working on doing a rebuild, something like that, there are capacitors in some of these components. That being said, capacitors and components tend to hold a charge, so you want to be careful. Mark Davis, is this printer self-source? Oh no, Max. Sorry, I thought you were Mark Davis. Max, this printer is not self-sourced. It was partially self-sourced. It was a Formbot kit. Formbot is, I don't even know if they still make kits, but they are known for making cheap kits. How about that? So, trying to remember how. So there's something different right there. That right there are the original mounts. Actually, are those the originals? No, those aren't even the originals. Where are the originals? Wait till you see the original mounts. They're like really cruddy. I don't know if there's still any originals on here. I've done some maintenance, obviously, to keep the thing up and running, just not a ton of it. Let's see here. This is for the screen. I'll take that apart. And this is the Physix Spider right here, which is a decent board. I never had troubles with it, but a lot of people had troubles with it. But it's not a horrible printer, or MCU. The Lineo harness that I'm unplugging right now is very nice. They make, well, I'm sure they have them on the shelf now, but back when I ordered this, it was a custom harness, and pretty much they were all custom. So that's pretty cool, right? And let's see here. I need a small flathead screwdriver. Max, if you've got other questions, bud, go ahead and feel free to ask while we're on here. This is just basically some random guy taking apart a printer that he wants to rebuild, so I don't plan on having a ton of meaningful conversation here, but I couldn't think of a better way to disassemble a printer other than do it during a live stream, because I honestly could not, hey, I'm live, could not do a series of disassembling a printer. It just seemed kind of odd to me. So yeah, so we got that. As you can see, there are no cable holders here, but at the same time, I mean, the cabling is relatively neat, right? I did a decent job. Kept everything square. So got that, got that, got that. And I think this might be, yeah, these are the original type of clamps that were used on these DIN rails for the Voron 2.4. So basically, they have a built-in spring system in them, so you could compress them a little bit, but they really did not hold up over time. The replacements on them obviously were like that, which is probably a little bit more familiar to people. But it's interesting that this is still on here. This is probably the only ones on this whole, maybe the only ones on here that actually held up. Most of these break over time, but these are kind of cool because they're print in place springs, pretty much spring clamps that are print in place. So it's kind of neat. See here, Nuno, hello guys. And David is on here too. I'm listening while I tinker some of my own. I'm here. Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys coming by. You can listen to me talk about my endeavor here with my old Formbot. And I will probably repeat myself sometimes here because there's not a ton to talk about, but people will come in, people will be going, I'm sure. But again, I really enjoyed this Formbot build back when I did it. The biggest difference being, and Max kind of asked a few moments ago, was this a self-source build? It was not, but it was a lot closer back then to a self-source build than what you see today with the LDO kits and whatnot. Basically, you got a box of parts, nothing was custom. You know, today when you get like an LDO kit, you have PCB boards and things like that I'll make air quotes, make it easier for you. I don't want people to get sick of this camera view, so let's go over here. Yeah, make it easier for you. But to me, it was more difficult. I actually probably in some aspects enjoyed building this printer a little bit more than the LDO printer, which had nothing to do with LDO specifically. It's just the way things have gone. I should probably move this camera a little bit. I'm not starting when I do these videos, so let's do that. I can see you now. All right, so Raspberry Pi. So far we got the 24 volt out of there. We got the Physix Spider, which is kind of a neat little board right here. If you've never seen one before, it's a little bit smaller than some of the other boards you see now, but it had all the abilities I needed. Had the ability to have 7 steppers on there, so that's nice. It also had the automotive fuses on it, which is also nice. And these are things that you see now on almost all the boards that you're going to get, but they were new when I put this board in. So yeah, let's see here, Max. I'm having some trouble with disassembling the Logitech C920 to put any tips? Yes, there is a video, and when I sit down, I will send you a link to that video. It is a pain in the rear end. I'm trying to remember what it is specifically, but there's a portion of it you don't think is supposed to do or come apart a certain way, but it does. And there's some very small screws on the inside once you get there. I'm guessing you're having trouble getting the foot off. Let me know if that's the case, if it's getting the foot off, because I do remember it was something to do with that. So if you're having a problem with that, I recall that being an issue. Fortunately, I don't recall exactly how I did it, but I do know I watched the video, and I can definitely find that video again. So let me know, Max. Let's see here. This is our 5-volt power supply here. So that's something else that's a little bit different here on this kit, this Formbot kit that has kind of gone to the wayside on like the LDO kit. And that is the fact that they actually provided in the kit a 5-volt power supply. You know, I did put one on my Ulti bib build, but it actually came standard with the Formbot kit. You know, the quote-unquote cheap kit came with the 5-volt power supply. Just some interesting stuff, right? Stuff changes. I didn't have any problems. One of the things that people used to be really concerned about, and I don't see it as much anymore, but people used to be really concerned about the solid state relays. And I will tell you right now, the reason why people get concerned about solid state relays is when they go bad, they do not go bad open, meaning they do not go bad without being turned on. They actually, if you had a light switch, it'd be like your light switch stopping to work, but it's stuck on. So if your SSR goes bad, it basically stays on all the time, meaning that your bed will just continuously heat on. It won't pulsate to heat up to a certain temperature. If it gets to 150 or so, or 160, whatever your fuse is set to, it will get to that fuse level and then pop the fuse, and then it will cut off. But this will remain on that whole time, which is why we fuse or thermally fuse the beds, is because, again, if this fails, it fails turned on. So I might upgrade that, but I haven't had any troubles with it. So I don't know, you guys got opinions on that? It's not an expensive part by any means, but I don't know if I should replace something. I haven't had any troubles whatsoever. That I don't know there's that much difference between them. So yeah. Okay, at this point, that's a little USB here, and we got the power, and our linear harness is down there. Yep. So the power was fed on this printer using power to the pins of the Raspberry Pi. That's a little bit different too. That used to be more common today. Now it's usually fed using other methods. So yeah, let's see here. Have you tried opening it with a hammer? Oh wow. All right. Hey Michael, how are you? Just ripping apart a printer today, right? I'm gonna stop for a second and I'm gonna see if I can help out our friend. Oh, now I'm up here. Oh, going down the elevator. I'm gonna see if I can help out Max real quick, find that video for him. It's not very difficult to find, so give me a second here. Let's see here. Let me see, I should be able to see which one it is. Do. And I probably should have done a video on this. This is pretty good. I'm going to post this in here. I'm going to copy this and paste it into the live chat for Max here. Here you go, Max. This should help you with your Logitech camera. I don't recall if that's the specific video, but it's pretty close. I just quickly skimmed through it. It should help you out. Let's see here. Max, I have one, but the field of view is not big enough to make it worth putting them out. Field of view looks pretty good with mine. Is it on? Yeah, it's on over there. Let me see. I will show you what mine looks like. So that's mine right there. And actually, yeah, my field of view on mine seems pretty decent. It covers the whole build plate, so I don't know where yours is mounted specifically, but it works pretty good with mine, FYI. Anyways, okay, so back to this. Let's get back to this. I'm gonna go back to here and then go back to here. Okay, so don't want to stay with the same camera view. You guys are going to get bored awful quick with this. So I guess we'll pull this screen off. We're not going to be using this screen, so this is going to kind of go away. And it's gonna be cool. I'm gonna have like, it's gonna be like starting from scratch. I'm gonna have all these parts sitting on the table over here. The feet change in the R2 build versus this one, so we might as well pull those off too. I'm gonna need a little bit bigger drive here. So how's everybody doing this week? The weather is crazy all over the United States. If you're not in the United States, let me know where you're from. I'm always interested in knowing where people are from. It's kind of an odd time for me to do a video, so I'm kind of interested in knowing if the usual suspects show up or if we got people from different places just because the timing's different. So, yeah. So here's something else that's different. So the feet. This is kind of minor. These are actually compressed. They're almost like suction cups originally, but the feet changed a lot on the R2. This is the original Voron 2.4 foot. It's a flatter rubber. Actually, I don't know. Maybe they're better. I don't know if a lot of interest goes into. Maybe these are harder to get, or maybe these aren't as good. I don't know. It seems to me that they would. Well, at least originally they would have provided a little bit better dampening because they had, like I said, the concave to them, but now they're pretty flat, so I guess it doesn't make a difference. Maybe they're just more expensive and harder to get, and they decide not to do it anymore. Let's see here. Nuno, hey, thank you, buddy. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Heat wave here from Max, and Max is down in New Jersey. It's kind of warm up here. It hasn't really been a heat wave. We had one a couple weeks ago, but I was actually happy to get that versus the rain, so I'm good with that. Hi from Ohio. Bob is in Ohio. Bob is right up the road from Chris from KB3D, which is cool. I'm sure he knows who that is. Speaking of Ohio, I recently, actually last weekend, trying to spend some time with the family during the summer, by the way. That's why the streams usually aren't as heavy during the summer. And you know, I'm not gonna apologize. It's my wife's a school teacher and I have school-age kids, so try to spend some time with them during the summer. But anyways, yeah, back to the Ohio thing there. I went to Six Flags, which is right on the Connecticut-Massachusetts border. And what's the big amusement park near Sandusky, Ohio? Bob, if you know that off the top of your head, because I'm interested in going out there, and I've had somebody tell me it was pretty awesome, but I want a local opinion. So if you've been there, let me know. If not, let me know. So this is something that's a little bit different too. These are the blocks that the feet sat on. These blocks basically are flat as flat can be, or flat as I could make them, which they're pretty flat, they're good. But they didn't have the newer ones have a little bit of a bevel to them. These ones don't have that. So there's another difference between this and an R2. And there's huge differences between this and an R2D2, in case you're wondering. It's a dad joke. We gotta slide some dad jokes in, right? There we go. All right, what do we got? Right now, mine too. Cedar Point, yes, Cedar Point. Looks like a Formbot. May now be Vivendino? It's Italiano now, I guess. They went from Formbot to a more Italian-sounding name. My kit was from Formbot, Voron 2.4 R2, and it seemed to go together better than the LDL. Interesting, Chuck. Has always been from. Interesting there too. I never saw the Vivendino name. I always saw the Formbot, so I can't talk about that. But your experience with your Formbot build, tell me a little bit more about that, because I'm not going to try to tell you specifically why I thought it was not a better build, but maybe a little bit more enjoyable. I want to know what you thought and why you think that. So throw that in if you can, and let me know why you enjoyed it more, since you've built both too. And these are snug. I don't know that I can get these with my bare fingers. We'll go back to this. Yep. Let me see. I'll grab a little screwdriver here. I got my KB 3D screwdriver. Let's see if I can. Oh yeah, pry these apart a little bit. Oh, you know why? I don't even think I'm being a little nummy nimmy here. Screws are down tight. So yeah, you guys got a little homework there. Tell me about Cedar Point and tell me why you enjoyed the Formbot more, and then I'll tell you what my experience was. And I want to see if they mesh up, because everybody always pushes the LDO kits, and the thing is, people said like Formbot was a cheap kit from China, but I don't, first of all, I don't think there's anything wrong buying stuff from China. I know there are political issues and things like that, but let's face it, most stuff comes from China, especially when you're dealing with this type of thing. When you get electronics, it's going to come from Korea, it's going to come from Japan, it's going to come from China, and sometimes Mexico, and sometimes from the United States, but most times it's from China or Japan or Korea. But yeah, so whether it's an LDO kit or a Formbot kit, it's coming from China. Huh, my gantry went down. I pulled the motor. Isn't that weird? Yeah. I buy an LDO kit if I had the money. They do so much for the community. Oh, yeah. That is a, I'll move this camera a little bit. That is a decent point. LDO does do a lot for the community. So I've talked about this before when I've talked about Prusa machines and the cost of a Prusa. I think Prusa makes very good machines. I think they're expensive for what you get if you don't take in consideration the service that you get. So what I normally tell people is when you buy a Prusa machine, you're not paying necessarily for the components, although the components are usually pretty damn decent. You're paying for the service and support that you get, because there's no other manufacturer out there. Well, there are, but there's not a lot of manufacturers out there that provide the level of support that Prusa will give you. Oops. So, steppers, and we're going to look at this stuff here. Once I get all the electronics off of this, we're going to look at the electronics that came with this, because they're not that bad, really. I mean, there's always better, but they're not that bad, especially for a cheap Chinese kit. And I say that lovingly, because this was really fun. I had a lot of fun putting this together. This kit was the whole reason I started making videos. So, if for nothing else, we got that out of it, for better or worse, right? Let's see, let me cut this off. Snagged up with that. It's gonna go to the bed. They probably did that after the fact. You know what we can do? We can just pull these here. There, yeah. Pull that off like that. Let's see here. But the kits are definitely not worth almost 2 times the price of a Formbot FISIC kits. Let's see here, FISIC kit. You guys are jumping on me. See here, FISIC kits, and etc. Oh, Chuck retracted his message. It threw me off. Yeah, I agree with that. So one of the best and worst things, depending on how you look at things, about this particular kit was the fact that it didn't come with a lot of extra stuff. I'm still looking for that opinion of somebody else that has built both, but I'll go ahead and start sharing mine while we wait for that. But I like the fact that it didn't come a lot of extra stuff, and it followed the Voron build manual pretty much exclusively. The only things, if I recall correctly, and somebody on here may know better than I do because I haven't gone back and watched my videos, but I had to utilize an old rendition of the build manual and a newer version of the build manual when I built this, because there were some changes. I remember what it was. There was some pages that were left out. So that had nothing to do with Formbot. That had to do specifically with the manual. So yeah, but I didn't really like the PCB additions that were made, and I didn't like the fact that this isn't serviceable by me. So when I put this together, in all my amazing glory and intelligence, I crimped all these wires. Let me skip this over to here so you guys can actually see what the heck I'm doing. I crimped all these wires together up here, and I don't think I'm going to be able to pass this back through. I can try though. Let's try. It's the worst that can happen. We'll break a panel. We're replacing the panels. Maybe. Maybe not. We'll see. There. See if I get that one. Be nice not to cut it, just so I can have it on the desk and kind of show what we got. I don't know if that's going to happen though, because this is a lot of wires to fit through that little tiny hole. Maybe I'll put that one up like that. Ooh, we might get this. Let me cut this one off here. I've already damaged this harness a little bit, so good thing we're not reusing it. I kind of cut into a wire a few minutes ago. I don't know if anybody saw it, but it happened. Hopefully I remember it and I don't go to reuse that harness. I better actually find that nick and put some tape on it, some red tape, just so I remember. Don't want to throw away the whole harness. It's pretty damn good wire. Come on, get through there. There we go. Yep. All right. Let's see if I can pull this stuff through. All right, what do we got here? Looks like only Stream Elements is talking right now, so. Chuck said something, but then you took it back. So anyways, I don't know who's here if you're in the beginning, but basically the disassembly of this printer is going to be during a couple live streams, this one, maybe another one. But the actual rebuild series portion of this printer, which is being sponsored by Big Tree Tech. So again, big props out to them for providing me with quite a few parts, some fun stuff that we're going to be putting in the Super Voron, air quotes, not TM'd or anything like that. So yeah, good. So pretty much a bare canvas here. This is kind of like a gaffer's tape that's on here because of the weak connections that we had when we had the original clamps. And I'll show those again later once we get to that point. So yeah, let me take off these mounts, I guess. I'll set it right down on the table. It was kind of double guessing or thinking here about whether or not I should do that, but we'll do it. We'll do it. There's a big one. That is a big, yep. Ooh. Get these out. I probably could have released the belts here on the far end. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. I've never taken one of these completely apart, so I'm bound to do some silly stuff here. So for nothing else, it might be kind of funny. Let's see. So I'm gonna put that back on real quick. All right, we're gonna flip it back around. I'm gonna flip it back around and pick up the screwdriver so we can release the Z-axis belts. Hopefully the whole gantry doesn't come slamming down on us. So we'll get that. Let's see here, Chuck. I like that it came with a 5-volt power supply. I agree. That cues powering the LEDs. Yes, more wattage available, more amperage and wattage. From the start, I built it with a stealth burner with 2-piece PCB, and I used tap. Did it come with the PCB when you bought the kit? This kit came with no PCBs whatsoever. Interesting, or interested in knowing. Do you know of a better Pi 4 clamp? Mine will not stay attached. Which Pi 4 clamp are you using? Are you using the one for the R2? Or are you, yep, I knew that was gonna happen. Or are you using, are you talking about an old beast like this? Standard kit one, R2. Really? Your R2 is not saying. So you're, let me, so if you have an R2, you should have something that looks kind of like this. Is this kind of what you have on yours, Michael? Yes. Okay. I do not know of a better one. This is actually a vast improvement over the original one that came out when I built this printer. This is actually an upgrade when I put this on here, because the other ones broke off pretty easily, and I'll show you what those look like in a few minutes here. What I would possibly do is one of two things. I'd either and I'm just, because I don't know anything better to tell you. I would either I would heat up this with a heat gun or a hair dryer or something, and basically bend it into position further back to the back side of this printer, so of this printed part. So basically heat it up and then push it this way, hold it, so you basically are going to deform the part a little bit, so you are going to put it back in position. Hold it for probably 2 or 3 minutes. I know it sounds like a long time, but trust me on that one. And then basically like completely cool off, probably for about 15-20 minutes, and then you should have a good clamping force on that. If that doesn't do it, what I would probably do is put some type of gaffer's tape or something similar on your DIN rail. I would also make sure that when you have this printed, you have at least a big enough tooth on that that's supposed to clip to the underside of the DIN rail. They are pretty small, but it's meant to be able to roll off of it. So I don't know of a better one. That's just some tips that I would possibly use. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, you can reprint it. You can reprint it. I'd probably just try heating it up first, honestly, because those parts like that are. It depends on. I'm gonna guess that you probably took it on and off a couple times, maybe too many. That's just a guess. Not trying to point out anything obvious or unobvious, but. All these clamps are made of plastic, and they will deform over time. So because they'll deform over time, the more you use them, the more they're going to wear. So they're really meant to only go on there once, maybe twice, 3 times if you're lucky. After that, they're going to deform a little bit. Formbot kit came with an afterburner, so no PCB boards other than the XY stops. Also did not use cable channels, which was fine. With me, it makes troubleshooting and debugging easy. I agree. Yeah, I don't know if you're in the beginning, but this actually went through, I didn't have cable channels on this either, and I was actually kind of worried when I flipped this over because I forgot what it looked like underneath it, but it was pretty clean. That was good for me, right? This is the first Voron that I built, so impressed myself. Oh, you did take it on. So you did take it on and off. Yeah. So I guess no for everybody is that these clamps. I mean, you can take them on and off a few times, but once you do it 2, 3, 4 times, they start to wear. They start to bend. They start to deform. So they're not meant to basically go on and off too many times. You might have to adjust them if you do. Let's see here. Can you also print that clip? You can also print that clip in PLA for fast iterations, like if you try sizing down. That's a good idea too. Yeah, size it down a little bit in your slicer. Yeah, probably 99.5, 99. Or actually, you know what? Depending if you want to do it overnight, you could print yourself 2 or 3 of them. I mean, plastic's pretty cheap. Do one at 99.5, one at 99, and maybe one at 98. I would say though, if you do need to print smaller, you might want to look at some settings on your printer. It might not be as exact as you think. You might want to do yourself a calibration cube. All right, so let's take these idlers off. Idlers. So idlers. Idlers. I didn't print original. It was PIF. Then they had to be perfect, right? Yeah, they, like I said, they're kind of like a wear part. They're not going to last forever, especially if you put them on and off a couple times. There could be a better design, but it's not one of those things that once you get it on there, once you get things done, you're really messing with all that much. So I could probably take, I'll take a look when I go to flip this back over again to see if I can find you something that might be better. But you really shouldn't have trouble with them. I assume your printer's printing now, so doing a little bit of modification is where it's at, right? And like I always say to everybody is as soon as you get your printer up and running, print yourself some spare parts. I wouldn't necessarily think of that part as needing to be printed, but it plays into that whole theory, right? Let's see here. Yeah, you're still there. Okay, good. Let's see. Let's take these apart. So this is going to be one of those things. Actually, once I get these derailed here, I want to get one of these. Hey, where you going? I wanted to look at this screw specifically because that's been rolling on that for a while. We'll take off one of these idlers, and I'm going to set this bad boy aside for a moment. It's actually a little bit lighter now without all those things. And let's see here. Let's throw that back on. Yep. And I'm gonna move this camera back down real quick. There we go. So let's go over some of these components I pulled off. Again, this is for the educational side of this whole thing. We're going to be looking at what goes. And actually, I was cleaning up my desk here, but some of the stuff on here is pertinent to the conversation. So I'm not going to clean up as much as I was going to. But yeah, some of the educational side of this whole thing is to see what the wear parts are on the printer, which is going to be more in the mechanics, obviously, than electronics, but I do want to go over some of this electronic stuff. But I'm going to go back here to desks, so let's, not that one, this one. I had a little bit of rubber filings here. I know they're hard to see, you can't see them on camera, but I can probably get them on my hand. Yeah, you can see some of them on my hand. So a little bit of rubber filings came off the printer. Those are definitely from the belts. It feels rubbery, so I know they're not plastic, they're rubber. So there's one thing, and when we get to the mechanical section of this, we'll have some belts off and take a look at those. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit, just so we can look at some of these parts for a moment. Some of the differences. So right here, a little bit of a different here on the old non-R2 version. That was the standard power going in. They did give you a USB on the Formbot kit, as well as a Cat 5. Never hooked up to USB on the inside, never had need to. If you want to go back and look at a video I did when I did this build, it actually has like a lightning bolt or something on the thumbnail. You can laugh at me if you want, but basically what happened is I touched my probes together and I caused a big spark and ended my stream, and I was embarrassed and I almost pooped my pants because I wound up blowing this fuse right here. So I wound up buying a big package of fuses. So if you want to go back and look at that video, have fun. It should be easy to find. You know, again, I try to do my videos relatively live, even when they're not streamed ones, just so people can see what can happen, and that happened. So there's a 5-volt power supply. Came with the Formbot kit. It is a RS-255, meaning it is a 5 amp 5 volt power supply. So that is a heck of a lot more than you're going to get out of 5 volts on your MCU, and it's beefy. This will probably last halfways of an eternity. The components in here are not discrete components. I can see capacitors. I can see probably is a bridge refractor in here and filtering. And this is going to be really nice, clean, good power, right? So that's why on my Ultibib / Minion build, I I decided to go with a 5-volt supply. 24 volt power supply here. This is a 24 volt, 8.8 amps. Again, plenty enough for what we're doing with standard steppers. We're not running 60 or 48 volt steppers, we're running 24s. But again, nice power supply. It's a mean well, because that's kind of de facto best one to go with. One of the big things, that just screws? Yeah. One of the big things that used to happen, I don't recall if it was with the LDO kit, but you got your 230, 115 switch here on the side of those. Good to always make sure you got that when you're doing your build. Here we have our SSR solid state relay, and again, a few moments ago I was talking about how these fail. When they fail on, not off. So it's a good thing to buy a halfways decent one. Gold is actually a halfways decent Chinese branded one. There are better ones per se, but if you ever wondered why you need a thermal fuse on your board, this right here, this is the primary culprit as to why you need a thermal fuse on your build surface. If you didn't have a thermal fuse, if this fails, this will stay on. It will heat up your bed until it melts something, and something winds up going very, 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 very bad. So this, again, this fails, it stays on, going to heat up the bed until something stops it from doing that. Yep. All right. So, and then let's look at the Physik board here. So here's the Physik board. It's pretty well labeled. Sitting here with, let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions. And I'm trying to remember Z2, Z1, Y, X. So I believe this actually does discretely all of them, whereas on some of the newer boards, the Z0 and Z are tied together. I believe this will do them all discretely. It's a little bit smaller than some of the boards now, and it doesn't have some of the power handling that some of the other ones were. And there has been issues with this particular board. There's different revisions of it. This is a version 1, so I never had an issue with it. Maybe I was lucky. Or maybe I got a good one. I don't know. Obviously, not as many positions here for fans and end stops and other things, probes and stuff. You basically have your steppers, your primary power leads for your hot end, your inputs and outputs for your SSR and whatnot, and then you have your screen, and then you have, trying to remember here, fans, and then end stops, and that was it. I don't think there was any RGB on this. There was output here for UART to your, there was output here for UART to your Pi if you chose to do that. And then there was USB Type-C on there and SD card slot, so you do your flashing and stuff. I think I did have a problem flashing it, but I basically got around that. And everybody knows what this is. I know these have been hard to find, but they're getting easier to find now, so you got that going for you. It's a good old Raspberry Pi with the newer version mount. Actually, I'd say I was going to talk about that. If you want to talk about a mount being bad, so this is the R2 mount, which is relatively thick plastic and has a decent clamping force on here. You know, you got the release, which mine is down pretty hard, but you have your release, so it clamped on pretty good. These are the old school clamps, which are neat, but horrible. I shouldn't say horrible. They could be better. How about that? Because they do work, they serve a purpose, but what they are is they're a print in place spring loaded mechanism. So basically this is a spring with this back and forth motion here on this plastic, and to basically clamp it on, you clamp this side on first. It elongates the spring slightly. I don't know if that's showing up on video, and then basically you slide it in or slap it down. You know, you basically go in like this, slap it in like that, you'll release it, and then these pull it back. The problem is that these, because they're again plastic, they tend to either break or they tend to stay stretched out eventually. So those are the old school ones. Like I said, they look really neat. They're kind of cool, and they're a print in place kind of cool thing. But yeah, they served a purpose. They're good. So Nuno, I have a V2.2. No issues so far. No, the Voron series printers has been pretty good. Yeah. Also had issues flashing. Let's see here. I got something in the way. Also had issues flashing. Had to do with DFU mode and the STEM32 program. Yes. I had to use the STM programmer too. What was it, like WinSTM something? It actually went pretty good. I think the instructions were in Chinese, so that was the only troublesome thing, but they were pretty self-explanatory. Power connection to the Raspberry Pi, there's nothing to look at there. And then screen, this is a standard small screen. Up until recently, this was kind of de facto. So basically you had your jog knob on here, you had your multi-line screen, reset button right here, which a lot of people don't even realize that that's there, but there's a little tiny reset button underneath here. So if you push that, it would emergency stop your printer, reset everything. Another issue that had happened with this, I think it was actually with the screen, is that one of these connectors was actually inverted, the plastic housing for it, and if you had hooked it up back then, you would cause yourself some headaches. So that was something from back in the day. There's always those little things. Steppers, let's look at stepper. Do I got one that's not tied to another? I do not. Okay, so we'll look at steppers real quick. So, little magnetic flux there happening. They're stuck together. So, talk about screws in a second here. Not much for markings on here. You get your specifications here, a serial number, which is a date. So 2021 on these. So 2 years and 3 months old, give or take. Or three, yeah, anyways. So these were relatively new when I got them. I'm guessing they were probably bought in bulk from Formbot, you know, in Shenzhen or something. But they look good. I never had any issues with them. And I don't, probably a fun video to do at some point would be to max these out, see what they can do. Teeth look good on this. So everything's good. These are directly wired, but they do have a rubber grommet on them, which now on the direct ones, a lot of times you can actually look in and see coils, which is kind of not great, but they have a little rubber grommet on these, so that's pretty neat. You know, these might actually be an LDO motor, just aren't branded LDO. I don't know. Probably looking at the face here, we could probably figure something out, but something for a different day. Oh, more screws. On to the screws real quick. I know this is a minor thing, but we'll talk about this for a second. Black oxide screws, not stainless or anything like that. No signs of rust on these whatsoever. I literally am in a basement, so it is not the driest part of the whole world. I'm up here in the northeast of the United States, so we have pretty humid summers and dry winters, but no rust at all on these, so they held up pretty good. A lot of people talk about all the screws rusting on a printer within a year or so on the cheap kits. I had not seen that. I wanted to look at this because this has been idling on a threaded screw for a long time, and there's a decent amount of play there, but not huge. And I'm gonna put my glasses on. I gotta look like an old man here for a second. See how everybody can see me look like an old man. I just want to look at these threads. So I always wondered, and I like doing pin mods because I like the idea of not riding on the threads of a screw, because it just seems odd to do that. You know, the little, I mean, they're kind of like little knives, really, right? I will say that I can see some color wearing on the threads of where that was riding, but I shouldn't see too much because this has a bearing in it, so it was spinning on there, but I can see some. It'd be hard to show you, but there's some shiny points, you can see them. And on the inside of this, that's going to be even harder to see. I can't really tell, but there may very well be some scrapes in there from the threads too. I can't tell. It's too tight in there to see. That was the idler. So something about my idlers. So this is one of the idlers, if you're not familiar. You know, they should be, because these are the same on the new as they are on the old pretty much. I had to replace, there were a couple of parts I had to replace plastic on when I built them because I had a couple of failing parts. So I definitely would suggest when you build your printer to print off some additional parts for your idlers, specifically your mounting portion for that, because there is a weakness in here where you can get cracking and things like that over time if your part winds up wearing, if you wind up tightening your belts too much or something, which is always a concern for people. So that's that. So that's it for the baseline electronics that are in this thing. So let's pull that back over and look at the mechanics after I see if there's anything on here. Let's see here. David, Gold Jaguar, you. Hope things are, let's see here. Oh, look at that. Golden Jaguar's here. What did I miss? I was talking about the 2.2 of the board. Oh, 2.2 of the board. Okay, I thought you were talking about 2.2 of the printer. There is a 2.2. So if you had 2.2 of this board, this is a version 1, so you had a much newer version of that board. Yeah. Hey, Gold Jaguar's on here. I don't know how long you've been here, buddy, but just basically ripping apart my old Voron 2.4. Seeing what's worn on the printer, because I don't think anybody's done any videos showing, you know, what the teardown of a full printer would look like, you know, what's worn, what needs maintenance, what needs to be replaced, that type of thing. And then we're going to be doing a rebuild. You might know that, but it's pretty cool. I'm going your route on this. This is actually going to be the Super Voron after a certain somebody that wears a cape and stuff. But it's going to be a dark version. It's going to be black and red, right? We're going black. We're going dark. Going dark on it. So a lot of cool stuff happening there. So clean off my bench a little bit here so we can pull that thing back over. And let's do that. Oh, zoom this one back out. And grab this through the looking glass. Yeah. Do well, hope to stream at some point. Yeah, we hope to see you too. We want to see you stream at some point. Definitely. I don't know why you haven't been. Like 10-minute streams. Just do 5-minute streams, bud. Anything. We miss you. Let us know you're okay. Something. All right, so when we last left, we had that, pulling off these idlers, pull these apart. Where's my electric? Get this pulled apart. And let's see here. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. I'll send you, so not to spill too many beans out of the bag, but since Golden Jaguar's here, it's special because he's not around anymore. I'll send you some of the graphics that I'm using. So basically, it's going to be a blacked out build. So basically, it's going to be not transparent, and there's going to be graphics on all the panels, including the front door, which you're going to have a portion that's transparent, but top, sides, front door with a cutout, and the back panel are all going to have graphics on it. So it's going to be pretty neat. Yeah, so I'm only telling everybody that's in the stream right now, and there's not a lot of people anyways, but because you're here. So it's going to be pretty cool when I do it. I'm going to like it. I think everybody else is going to like it too. And hopefully Chris gets some business out of it at KB3D, because he's very helpful. Yeah, I'm going to do some stream before I ship out. Hey, perfect. You should consider doing some stream, but you should record some stuff and just have it like, have the wifey post it out or something, man. You can do some of those cool, like, if you're watching this video, I'm not really here, but I wish I was. And I will see you soon. Have some fun with it. So, all right, we'll get these idlers torn apart here real quick so we can get the base motors off, our Z-drive motors. So I'm considering buying a complete gates kit, which includes all the idlers and everything like that goes with it, along with the belts. I'm not going to reuse belts. Reusing belts I could probably get away with it pretty easy. Like I said, these Gates belts, Golden Jaguar, tell you all about how I don't need Gates belts, but I was thinking about buying just to see how good it is, because like the LDO kit comes with Gates belts, but I've never had actual Gates idlers and whatnot, and I wonder if they're better. I don't know. If anybody here knows, by all means let me know before I waste the money on buying them. I'm interested in knowing that, so do me a favor, let me know if you know that, because I don't want to waste where I don't need to. Mention it again on my channel page over on the YouTubeage. I'm sure you're watching this anyways, but on my Build a Basement page, if you checked that out, I have been posting basically some post on choosing parts for the upcoming rebuild of this. And if you have a moment and you have an opinion, I'd like for you to slam yourself over there real quick and leave that opinion to be known. Basically stuff like, do we do a tap? Do we do CAN bus? Do we do a CNC tap? Do we do, you know, what hot end are we going to use? That type of stuff. So that's all in there. There's a couple things that I am not changing, mostly because, you know, for instance, I already have the Big Tree Tech Octopus I'm going to use on this. So controller, the MCU is not in there for conversation. I mean, I'm interested in knowing if you have a different, you know, if you want to see a Mantha or something like that, we can consider that for the next build. But the things that I haven't been asking questions for, if you're wondering why, it's mostly because I've already, like I said, Big Tree Tech is kind of sponsoring this, and they've already sent me some parts. So that would be the reason for those things. So if you're wondering why I'm not asking for those, that's why. Oh, all right, so let's get this motion system. I'm almost sad ripping this apart because it actually still worked pretty damn good. So this is, I use this Voron, because you know the whole slogan of printers making printers. I use this Voron to print my parts for my new Voron. So if it wasn't for the fact that I really think a halfway decent video series, or at least a quarter decent video series if I'm making it, on, you know, basically what wear parts are you going to find in your printer after a couple of years needed to be done, I probably would have not pulled this all apart. I probably would have I would have redone the tool head. That's probably a definite. Basically put a stealth burner on it. Let me get my screwdriver straight. Put a stealth burner on it and call it a day. But I wouldn't pull the whole thing apart because most of the components on this are just fine. So I wound up keeping like the belts and stuff for spare parts. So that's a plus, right? There's nothing wrong with them. You know, they got a little wear on them, but they're really not worn. And that's something to look at, actually. You know, getting back to that, getting back to the whole thing about checking out what's worn on a printer and stuff like that, your wear parts. So on a belt, and Golden will back me up here if he's still around. I don't know if he swooped in, swooped out. Hey, Renee's here. Awesome, buddy. Didn't think you were coming, but I guess you found some time. Voting on CAN bus, good. It's getting CAN bus, no matter what, because Big Tree Tech gave us CAN bus parts. And what Big Tree Tech tells me to do, I have to, no, I'm just kidding. They asked me what I wanted and I told them, so. So on a belt, so looking at a belt real quick, this is a Gates belt, but basically any fiber reinforced belt is going to basically be the same. There's only a couple things that really go wrong with the belt. You can have fraying on the sides, you can have cracking in the belt, and you can have worn teeth. So on this belt, the way Gates makes their belts, they put like a reddish brown coating over the teeth, which is really thin. If you look at it from the side, let me zoom in here. If you look at it from the side, you'll see, focus, come on. You can do it. Maybe you can't. There you go. So you'll see that the belt material is rubber black, but the teeth themselves on the front of them are all this brownish reddish color. So what you're looking for here is basically any big spots where you see that the color is gone and they're just black, and that would be worn. And you might even see it being a little bit light gray if it's happening for a long period of time and it's gone unaddressed. So when you're looking at belts and you're looking at, you know, whether or not you need to replace a belt, you know, that's basically what you're looking for. And on the sides here, that's where you're looking for the fraying. If you see fraying here, and they would only fray if they have fiber reinforcement in them, because that fraying is actually the fiber reinforcement coming through. And on the back here, if you see cracking, which I think we know what cracking looks like, but if you see cracking on the back there, that'd be another reason to switch out the belts. This belt looks perfectly fine. I can see where it spent some time right here where it's a little bit lighter. It's got, I don't know if you can see it or not on camera, but it's got almost like a little bit of a shiny spot here and here. I'm guessing, yep, I'm guessing that's where it basically sat for some time, you know, under load like that. But there's nothing wrong with that. Good belt. Don't need to switch them out, but we're going to anyways because we're going to. That's why. All right, so let me flip this bad boy. Or actually, let me zoom it back out. And let's flip this bad boy around. And my gantry is going to be completely floating at this point. Let's try not to make a too much of a comical scene here. Your laughter equals my tears. That'd be a good t-shirt. If you make t-shirts, that'd be a good one. Your laughter equals my tears. All right, so what's holding this? All right, there's nothing really holding this other than stubbornness of the printer. All right, yeah, let's see. Let's see here. Voron CAN bus, yes. Any fiberglass reinforced belt works. I agree 1000%, my friend. My Voron 0.1 belts have almost no visual wear. 1500 plus hours printing at extremely high speeds. So this printer has about 2000 hours on it. I would say probably definitely more than 1500, but maybe not 2000, but it's getting there. It's close. And these belts are pretty darn nice, actually. I never really pushed this thing for speed, mostly because I was afraid to. And I do push my Zero a little bit for speed, but I've never actually been overly impressed with that. I always thought it was going to be faster than it is, but some of that has to come down with the extruder. I don't think my extruder. I went with a Revo on that one, and I probably should put a high flow, which, by the way, is one of the things you can vote on for this new printer, is what kind of hot end we're going to put on this, and the Revo high flow is one of those options. So, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yep. You know, how do you like your V0? Actually, I'm not sure how bad that screwdriver sounds on camera. I actually took my V0 to work when I built it because it was so portable, and I printed a couple of things randomly. They just sit there in the back of my space, and I think I printed. Somebody really likes cats. The person that was answering the phones at the time, they really like cats, so I printed them a cat cell phone holder. And I printed another person a print in place bendable dinosaur family, because her son loved dinosaurs. So I had fun with that. That's a good thing about the V0. It's 100% portable, very small. There's actually one behind me over there. I will say this though, now that I'm thinking about the V0, that was probably the most painful build. Putting in all those nuts is just plain crazy. Even though I had some, I used the nut holders, and I know you know what I'm talking about here, but I used the nut holders when I built it, but man, there was a lot of nuts. I was going nuts putting the nuts in there. That was bad. It was painful. I don't want to do that ever again. I did not enjoy that. So there we go. All right, so there's the top, 100% flush, flat out, whatnot. And I'm wondering if I should, yeah, I'm gonna unbolt the bed real quick. I'm gonna unbolt the bed. We'll take the bed off. Again, Formbot kit, people say, you know, I forget what they call it, a rolled aluminum surface versus a machined surface. This definitely was not a high-end machined surface by any stretch, but I never really had much issue with printing on it. You know, you do your bed mesh, you keep things clean. It worked pretty well. I never really had much issue. So there we go. Get that out. And what did I do here? Whoa. Well, that's interesting. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'll show you something in a second. Let's see here. Let's slide that over here. And do this. And do that. And cut that zip tie. That's an interesting thing. I don't know how that happened. Cut this one too, I guess. So that connector came with the Formbot kit. I don't see those anymore. And there's our ground. So let me get that ground off. Try to get that ground off. Wow, that's on there pretty good. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get that off. Yep, there we go. All right. And here's the bed. Put that aside for a second. Did you guys see that, by the way? Let's see here. Total workhouse for minor mods. Yeah, I agree with that. Most of the times it has failed me was user error. Don't say that. There's never any user error, right? That's why I haven't rebuilt mine yet. Right? No need to. Only crazy people that make videos like this need to rebuild printers that are perfectly functional. All right, so let me pull this. What am I going to do here? I'm going to do that. We'll leave that where it is. I should take that off. Max, you still around, bud? You're quiet if you are. You should be watching this because then you'll know what you need to maintain on your printer once you get it all built. Actually, you got it all built. All right, pull that through. Yeah, let me flip it back over again. And we're going to be careful because that gantry is completely floating. And by floating, I mean there ain't nothing holding it. Okay. So I'm going to set this aside real quick because I found something fun. Whoa. Yep, that's bound to happen. I found something fun. Let's look at this bed. Did you guys see what happened to the bed? Well, Max is here. Cool. I don't know if you guys saw this. Lucky. Look what happened. So, note to whoever, this is kind of important actually. I wasn't sure when I first looked at how important, but let me unscrew this real quick. Hey, if you don't know, this is the thermal fuse on this printer. And if you don't know, you probably need to go make sure you have a thermal fuse on your printer. So this is cracked when I took this off, and I had no idea that this was cracked. And it didn't crack in a way that makes me think that the screw is in there too tight, because it didn't crack over the weak point. It cracked in the midsection, which I have no idea why. But here's the thing: is this thermal fuse was still good, meaning that it hadn't blown. But the problem is that this was screwed on like this, and it's based on gravity. This was down below it, meaning that this bed could have possibly heated up well beyond what that thermal fuse would have taken. It's only set to 125, so I guess that's good, but I probably would have had an issue if my solid state relay had gone out. So definitely something to look at, I guess. If you've got a printer and you've had it in service for a year or so, check out your thermal fuse. Make sure it's not cracked or anything, because it is a piece of, you know, ceramic. It's glass, so possibly from heat and cooling and whatnot, it came out. It died. It broke. It did not die. I shouldn't say it died. It just broke, which is worse than it dying, because if it died, then I could have found it and replaced it. I don't know. I can think of a good way to cause that to not happen again. One thing I would say is there is a heat sink compound. I just have, let's see here. I have normal silicone heat sink compound right here. It's just a thermal paste, but they do make, and I think I have some somewhere, I just don't know where it is, thermal heat sink compound. It's also a glue. So after seeing this, I think it might be smart. See, something came out of this video. Wasn't expecting much out of this, but I would possibly consider, when building a printer, if you have the opportunity, because I've seen this now, is basically to use a thermal paste glue to glue it down when you screw it down. So if it does crack, then it still at least has the glue holding that down to the actual build plate. It's, you know, maybe a little bit of insurance, but definitely something to check on. I never would have thought of that. I would have thought if something had happened to this, it would have, you know, would have ended, but I can tell from right here, I see a little black spot. That's not the fuse. The fuse is actually down here in the base of this. And when the top fell off of it, it didn't do anything. See how it's white? I don't know if you can actually, yeah, you see it there. This is yellow, this is white. It looks like it broke where the material was meeting the actual fuse material, but didn't cause it any issues. What do you guys think of that? Yeah, you could use RTV. Let's see here. Tighten the screw onto the thermal fuse too much, cracked it. That's how it broke, I'm guessing. Yeah, maybe. So, just to show you, it wasn't broken. I'm pretty doggone sure it wasn't broken when I put it together. So this has a spacer in it. So I had that brass spacer in it, and then it was on like that. And I mean, it's possible. I'm not going to say it's not, you know, it's impossible, but the fact that it broke nowhere near where that screw head was, unless this wasn't flat from the manufacturer, you know, if it had a little bit of a bow to it maybe, and then when it got sat down, but it was not broken when it went in the printer. But I'm guessing it was internal stresses, because like I said, I can definitely see where there's two different materials that made it up here. There's a cream colored one and a white colored one, a ceramic, and the actual fuse material in there. So yeah, good thing to look at, good thing to look out for, I guess, right? That caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to find that. Let's see here. That could have been very bad. I agree, that could have been very bad. That's why I say, yeah, that's probably something you want to look at maybe every few months. All the more reason on the new build, I guess, and I didn't do it on purpose, but all the more reason on the new build to do that Wago. If you saw my new build, the Wago mount underneath the bed, that you can easily pull the bed off, inspect the bed, and being on a kinematic mounting system, I don't have to unscrew anything. So there's a good valid point for a kinematic mounted bed with Wago connectors. You can inspect your thermal fuse every month or so. Yeah, RTV would work. I just said that, or the thermal paste, like I was saying, thermal glue. Let's see here. If it had broke, mainsail would have crashed. Yes. If it had broken, mainsail would have gone into like a fail-safe mode, meaning that basically it senses that fuse is broken. Actually, would it? No. No, it would not have. What would have happened is the bed wouldn't have heated up. So, good question, Renee. Appreciate that one. So what would have happened, I'm not gonna zoom back in here. So this is on the A lead, or the primary lead, coming in from the power connector here. And what would have happened is the power would have flown through, and normally it flows through and then to the bed. So basically what I did is I had cut the wiring that went directly and installed my fuse in between, and I put quick disconnects here. But anyway, so what would have happened is that would have broken here, so the power couldn't have gotten to the bed itself once that thermal fuse blew. The MCU actually doesn't know that thermal fuse has gone bad. What would have happened in mainsail now, what would have happened in mainsail is once that bed reached the temperature above the threshold of what's set in the software for the maximum temperature of the bed, it would have gone into a fail-safe stop mode and then hopefully cut power to everything. So there's basically three things that you hope work properly. One is your solid state relay doesn't fail. So that's your first line of defense. Your second line of defense is probably your software. So basically you're relying on, you know, the hardware, then the software, and then finally your thermal fuse, which would be the last thing you want to lose, because it's kind of pain in the rear end to swap out if you had to. Not that bad, but it's in there. So there's 3 levels of defense there that you have, which is a good thing. But I didn't expect to find that. That's a good one. I just went and checked mine in case. Good idea. Let's see here. You should definitely to a video or post sharing that community. Yeah, I will. What I'll do is I'll put that in the community notes, and then I'll also tweet it out, and maybe I'll do a YouTube short for that. And then everybody's just gonna tell me I tightened up the bolt too much and whatever. But yeah, I don't know when it happened. That freaks me out a little bit. Let's see here. Could have burned down my house. Joke. Let's see here. I've gotten not heating at expense. Yep, eventually. Well, the thermal fuse wouldn't have caused the not heating at the expected rate, because that's not the thermistor, that's the thermal fuse. The thermistor, if it wasn't registering properly, if that had broken, then that's what you would have gotten. But this is the thermal fuse. The thermal fuse is nothing to the MCU. The MCU doesn't monitor the thermal fuse in any way. Although, yes, you would have gotten eventually if the thermal fuse actually blew, and the bed was trying to get heated and wasn't being heated. It's all tied together. Depends on if it broke, how far it was sitting from the bed. Yeah, the fuse broke and the bed was in because it wouldn't power. Then was, yep, that's, yeah. We're on the same page, right? All right, anyways, back to reality here. So this bed's perfectly fine. I'm definitely gonna keep this. Based on the votes so far on the community page, we're going to be doing a Mandela Rose. I talked about that earlier, and I'm going to have the gentleman that's in charge over there join us when we put the bed on the printer to talk about the product and whatnot. Just because who better to talk about the product than the person that actually machines it, and I think their parts are just amazing, so I want to hear a little bit about that and give him an opportunity to talk about it. He may not take it. He said that he'd be interested in doing it, but we'll see if it actually happens. But anyways, Formbot bed, never had issues with it, and it's a Vivadino, which there's that name we talked about earlier, right? Formbot. I guess that came back up. 450 watt on that bed. Pretty thick. It's actually much thicker than the Mandela Rose one. Probably equally thick, give or take, as the LDO one, if I had to guess. Oh, focus. There you go. It's not a thermistor, it's a fuse. If it broke, cutting power to the bed, the thermistor would eventually sense no change in temperature, cut everything off, and bed not heating. Yep. Yeah, I will do my part and try to let people know. You guys do your part, and you let people know too. So, all right, where does that leave us? I think that leaves us pretty good. I don't want to pull apart the head right this second, the tool head. I think I'm going to do a separate video because I'm going to break that all down 100%. Is there anything you guys want to talk about for a few moments while we finish up this stream? I guess it's pretty much we got most of the mechanics taken apart. We got the electronics all out of this thing. I don't know if you saw some of the other previous live streams, but I did talk a lot about the parts that we have going into this. One of the things that I've been playing with that a lot of people ask questions about is this little guy right here, the Nomi. Oh, it's got the little big tree tech thing in front of it, right there. Yep, there we go. So with the possibility of somebody stealing an idea, but it's all open source type stuff, so who cares? I have some thoughts. This is sent to me by Big Tree Tech, and we're going to actually be using this in conjunction with the. Let me bring it up here, and then do my screen share. Stand by. Where is it? So this right here, in conjunction with the Nomi screen, that goes around about right here using a snap-in. And you might be asking yourself, but how will the fan work? So I want to clarify that a little bit because I think it's important. And this is obviously a stealth burner, but this is a different stealth burner. This is a modified stealth burner. If you're not familiar with this at all, if you've seen the screen and wondered that, or if you haven't seen the screen, I'll talk about that a little bit. But basically what's happening here is this particular stealth burner has been modified to have inlet holes along the blade propeller, because if you remember, this is a cage fan that goes inside here. And cage fans actually scoop in air from the sides. So in actuality, if documentation is to be believed, this is actually a little bit more of an efficient way of getting air down into your bed, onto your filament as you print. So what happens is that Nomi goes face first here, so it'll be sticking out, and then the fan goes behind it, and the fan actually pulls in air through the ducting on the sides here. So that's usually a question that comes up. It was one of my first questions when they asked me if I wanted one, and I said, well, let me do some research. I'm kind of concerned about it, but I wanted to share that real quick because this is gonna be pretty cool. But that's not the thing I was talking about a second ago. The thing I was talking about a second ago that I want to share with you guys is I'm thinking about a little side project where we use 2 or 3 of these and do a gauge cluster. That's one idea I got for these things, because these are all connected via Wi-Fi. They basically pull the information off of your printer using, you know, basically the clipper information coming through. They can pull the temperature of your bed, temperature of your nozzle, your print completion, things like that, and they display it on a screen. So I was thinking about doing a gauge cluster on the front of the printer as opposed to the screen, because I never use my screen for any modifications. It's just information. So I thought it'd be kind of neat. And then I got to thinking to myself, I was like, what would it be like if you had one of these, which runs on 5 volts and it runs on Wi-Fi, if you could have, and I'll try to, we'll do like the world's quickest mock-up here. If you could have a little box, one of these on the front of it, and a little USB plug on the back, because that's all it needs, USB Type-C on this, and basically it would display information about your printer, but you could be in a separate room. So you could have your print completion information on there, or it could go through, transition through different things. And you could have maybe multiple of them if you have multiple printers that are going. So what do you guys think of that? Is that a good idea? Halfway's decent? Let's see here. Hi, Dad. I don't know if it's Haley or Keegan, but hello. Do the Kenny mod for the Nomi. Trust me, it's much better cooling. Okay, I can look at that. There's the Kenny mod 2 now that's very good. I'll have to look at that. Stock Nomi mount is terrible in my humble opinion. Airflow is bad, and that clip is garbage. Okay, good to know. I just went through testing all this on my 350 2.4. Someone's made a gauge style cluster mounted in the back of the gantry for that. Okay. Yes, I was going to throw that one out. I was going to throw one on a skirt. Yes, I saw. So I've seen one on a skirt. I did see that, but I haven't seen one as like a gauge cluster with like 3 of them across. And I definitely haven't seen anybody use one like as a standalone, like little miniature monitor, because these are relatively cheap, and everybody has USB plugs everywhere. So I thought that could be kind of neat. Let's see here. I think it was a Trident fixed gantry. There's front skirt. Yes, I've seen the front skirt mod for the one of them, but I was thinking about doing, like I said, 3 across. But that's one thing that I've been playing with. I'm also going to be doing custom graphics on these. They give you the software, which I think is in Chinese, but they give you the software to basically take animated GIFs and put them on here. So I think it's gonna be neat for like a boot up GIF to match the presence of the printer rebuild, the styling of it, if you will. Printables has a Kenny mod. It's much better, but feel free to do your own testing. Why would I do that if you already did it? I trust you guys. Let me see if I can find the Kenny mod. Stand by. So it's on printables, right? Get me some printables. Let's go to printables.com. And let's switch over to that screen. And let's see. Nomi. Ooh. Where are you typing? There you go. Kenny mod 2. Modify that. Let's see, Kenny mod 2. What is the difference? Do we know what the difference is? Printables Kenny mod, it's much better, but yeah. So what's the difference between 1 and 2? So I don't waste everybody's time. Okay, yeah, I have seen this. I didn't know it was called the Kenny mod. I did see this. I saw how it went on the front. Honestly, I didn't like the way it looked. In all honesty. It got rid of the sleekness of the stealth burner. Oh man. And I didn't like how it got rid of that. Okay, so it is the original Kenny mod, which basically puts it in the front of it, but separates it out a little bit. Let me ask you this, David. Do you print fast? Was it basically a cooling issue where you weren't able to cool the filament quick enough, or what was the specific issue you're having with the cooling? Because I honestly especially when I print ABS, I don't really run fan at all, maybe at 10 or 15%. So I don't think it would impact me that much. I don't know. I understand the idea. I don't think I like the way it looks. Maybe something to look into. Something to look into. Let's see here. Oh, yes. Wonder if the LCD is from a watch. Okay, so let me. It's funny you say that. I've messed with that idea. So I wear a Garmin watch. I've been wearing Garmin watches for a while, and the first time I saw this, I said, "Man, that looks familiar." And so I don't know if it's from a watch specifically, but I can tell you that whatever factory is making it is making a screen awful close to the exact same size as my watch. And basically this is just an ESP32 slapped on the back of an LCD screen with some power, voltage regulators, and some other minor components on here. But the ESP32 is doing the heavy lifting. It has the Wi-Fi module in it. It has, I think, a 240 megahertz processor in that that's doing the processing for the video display. So it's basically an LCD screen slapped on to an ESP32 with an additional power connector and a USB connector on there and a reset button. But yeah, it is very, very, very close to the size of my watch screen. It's funny you said that. Bridging and cooling tests show the Kenny mod 2 is on par, part cooling wise, as stock stealth burner for me. Well, stock normally was pretty bad. Okay. Well, I do some bridging. I don't do a lot of bridge work, but I do some bridging. Let's see here. Yes, I print fast. I had a feeling. Well, we'll look into that. We'll check that out. Other than that, I don't really have much to talk about today. We're pretty much all done with the stream. I will say, if you talk to anybody or anything like that, I'm gonna guess that I'm going to get flamed out for my broken thermal fuse. But I do think it's important to tell people about that. It does give a good additional reason to go with a kinematic mounted bed, whether it's Mandela Rose Works or something else. Allowing you to inspect the underside of your bed and that thermal fuse. I never would have thought for a moment it was broken. I wouldn't have never known until I either had thermal runaway on the... I would have had... My SSR would have had to gone bad, and I would have had to have thermal runaway on my bed, and then had my thermistor notify Clipper, and then Clipper fail-safe into it. And that's the only way I would know that thermal fuse possibly was broken. So, yeah. Oh, covering my mic. Sorry about that. Yes, you could do stock coming out, especially ABS, for example. I turned up cooling up from 35 while I had it, so it's still usable. All right, we'll see. I mean, if it's not usable, then more content, right? Again, that fits right in line with everything I try to do. If I do it based on what's out there and it doesn't work out, then people will know. So I'm the guinea pig. All right, well, with that all being said, I didn't take an opportunity yet today to thank my friends, which are down below here. These are additional YouTube channels that I enjoy watching myself, and I think a lot of you guys are also watching them. It's the First Layer, DeWitt 3D, Golden Jaguar, who was just on here a moment ago. He might still be around. And then the Poor Boy channel, which is kind of messed up right there. I don't know why. But anyways, and then I have we have our members to our channel. So if you haven't joined, I have a bunch of different ranges. I think it starts at $1.99. It helps me put this content on, helps pay for cameras and stuff like that. But I got these people in here. We got Mark D, Darren, we got Joe, we got Renee, we got Golden Jaguar, Ernesto, Max, who I know is here right now. Renee was on earlier. I don't know if he's still here. And then Bob. I think Bob's on here too, right? Bob, you here? Anyways, and then what about you? All right. I really appreciate everybody coming by. Like I said, it was kind of odd for me to do a stream this early in the evening on a Thursday. Tomorrow, DeWitt 3D is going to be on at 8 o'clock, so I didn't want to be on the same time as he is, so I'm going to be watching that since I can't do a stream and watch a stream at the same time. So hopefully if you guys are subscribed to DeWitt, you guys check him out tomorrow at 8 o'clock. He will be continuing to put together his printer, and hopefully that will go well. And if there's no additional questions or comments or things like that, we'll button this up. Yeah, so wherever you are, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, all those things. Oh, there's Bob. I will check you soon. So we're going to do another live stream probably between now and this weekend to finalize pulling apart the rest of that, get us down to a frame so we can make sure the frame's square, if not re-square it. And then it's going to be back to a video series, so I am not losing attention span talking to you folks while I build, which is going to be beginning of August. So hopefully if you're interested in that, you check it out. Again, this is going to be the Super Voron. If you didn't see those logos, some of that cool stuff, I had them in the beginning here, so I will do it again. I think it's a really cool logo. So that's going to go away. Go away. Yeah. And then this comes up. Yep. So should be pretty cool. So hopefully you're there. Hopefully you check out the video series. Hopefully I see you next time I go live. I'll try to give you 40 hours notice or so. And again, I really appreciate you guys all watching, and I'll see you soon.